the home of pizza, pasta, and Italian motorsport. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Monza and to the United Touring Championship, where you join myself, Zach Sweeney, and Captain Dean Biggles in the commentary booth for rounds 9 and 10. And well, with the season well underway, we really do have a sensational championship battle on display between Olivier Boltonic, Scott McFall, and Dan Mould. The three of them separated by not very much, with less than half the season left to go. And well, they're new to the championship, of course, but I mean, you've obviously been debriefed just a little bit. Of course, we're here at Monza. A little bit of a different layout, though.
Yes, a little bit of a different layout. Well, this is a classic Monza layout, as far as that I'm aware of, and rather than unless you want to go back to the old oval days, of course. And you might upset a few Italians if you pine up on your pizza remarks at the start of the show there, my friend Zachary. But yes, I like how he called me Captain Biggles or whatever. But it's spicing up, isn't it? It's rounds 9 and 10 for the United Touring Car Championship. Fortunately, we don't have those standings that we actually have completely up to date to show you. Otherwise, we might show you previous round standings, and we don't want to have anything incorrect. Stepping in, of course, I am today for Mr. James. That's on a family day, of course. You've got to get a family first and racing second. So we'll miss James out there, but we won't miss you out there, Mr. Phil. Hello, hello. He had to get up early in the morning to beat you, my friend. And yes, and he says hello to you, Zach. Now, at the moment, they have, what, a minute and change to go of the practice session. And let's go down to the track side and have a look at the current times that they're putting in for the practice, so we can get an idea of who is going to be the quickest man around Italiana. And well, it's Lewis Archer currently at the moment there, 145.6. Are you expecting to see those sort of times in qualifying?
Oh, honestly, I've got no clue. I mean, of course, these are touring cars. It's a longish circuit for touring cars, is Monza, but of course they don't have to go through the Rettifilo chicane of turns 1 and 2. They completely skip that, and it's going to be interesting. Of course, we were having a look in sort of the Discord chats. At least I was. As some of the drivers, Lewis Archer particularly, was sort of complaining about Curva Grande, how it's one of those corners that are very sort of all or nothing. It can either go really well or really wrong. And when you're going into that very fast right hand, normally it is going to be very, very fast today, of course. It's going to be sort of one of those where if you get it wrong, you're going to get it really, really wrong, because you're going in there with such speed. If you have to slow down even marginally more than you have to, it is going to have some detrimental consequences. And of course, we were just talking with Chris Byram as well about how people are running different setups. Some are going with a little bit more rear wing. Some are going with a little bit less, of course, to negate the straight line speed disadvantage they're going to have and maximize that pit straight. But that difference is definitely going to spice things up with sort of the different styles of corners, and of course, balance those corners with the amount of straight that we have here at Monza.
That's your Curva Grande right now. We have the static camera on, you'd mentioned. And then, of course, if you manage to survive Curva Grande, you have the first and second Lesmo right there. There's your first Lesmo and then your second Lesmo. So, obviously, the first one you can enter in a little bit slower than the second one, of course. Second one, you want to have it's a little bit tighter, but of course, you want to have a fantastic exit because you have a long straightaway before you go down, obviously, to the most famous of famous places on the planet, and that is the word that starts with Ascari, and that's whether or not you like your pineapple on your pizza. Phil says he likes his pineapple on his pizza, and practice session is over, and now it's all going to come down to the open qualifying session. We're going to have 15 minutes of it, so exactly, it's going to be fun.
It's open quali as well, which is the interesting thing. I mean, here at Monza, people are going to be thirsty for that slipstream, aren't they? All 15 minutes long. They're going to not really want to pull into the pit, because as soon as they do, they're going to lose touch of the train. And I'm expecting to see a number of sort of DRS trains, not DRS, slipstream trains. They don't have DRS. I don't think they can afford it on these touring cars. That's too sophisticated. But no, that slipstream train's benefiting obviously of people punching a hole in the air for them in front of them, and you're not going to be the one that's going to want to lead. It's going to be a case sort of that we see in sort of cycling. It's going to sort of one person's going to have to take the lead for a lap, and then maybe it's going to sort of change so other people can have a go, or people are just going to try and be as selfish as possible. Interesting layout, of course, of the Roger going through, which I haven't ever seen before, but obviously is the case for this layout, where it's pretty much almost flat out, so it's not hardly even a braking zone. The first proper braking zone is down into the first Lesmo, which is going to make overtaking, I think, a bit more of a challenge around here. So I think, qualifying is going to be just that little bit more important as well.
Well, soon you can give us a hot lap around to explain how to make your way around this track as quickly as possible, as we currently are on board with Scott McFall, the Scottish from Scotland, of course, so there's lots of Scots in his name. We know Scottish drivers are fast. Talked to DC about that one back in the day of Formula 1. Please let us know if the audio levels are all perfectly good and fine at the moment. I don't usually broadcast this, stepping in for James, but I've broadcasted a few in my day. Certainly been around Italy multiple times, usually in a Formula 1 car rather than a touring car, but hey, it's the same track. Track doesn't change. Only the drivers shifting up a gear. Yeah, here we go. So Scott's about to start a hot lap at the moment, mate. So on board with Scotty, and you can give us a shotgun tour with Scotty around Italy.
Probably the wrong person to ask to go around a hot lap because, well, my sim racing expertise is fairly limited, to say it in the most bluntest of ways. But coming off the exit of the Parabolica, I refuse to call it the Alboreto curve because it's Parabolica. Sorry. It's going to be a lot of quiet, a lot of filling down the pit straight because it's a very, very long one. You completely cut out the normal turn 1 and 2, as we said, the Rettifilo chicane, and you are on the power for a long time. It's easy to sort of doze off, similar to sort of the Circuit de la Sarthe. There goes the Audi coming through and down in towards Curva Grande. We're going to see how they take it, completely committed in these front-wheel drive cars, which is fair enough, naturally drifting to the outer extremities of the circuit because a lot of load is being put under those front tyres. Then in towards the Roger, oh well, what is left of it, flick to the left, and then you pretty much straighten it out as you try and ride the bumps of the runoff area, slam on the brakes after being in excess of nearly in the upwards reaches of 200 miles an hour in towards the first of the two Lesmos, to using the AstroTurf on the exit, of course, naturally braking just before the 50 board for the second Lesmo. Again, a corner that is of vital importance to get a good exit. Scott McFall, of course, running up in the championship fight, has proven his might over the course of this season so far with a number of race victories. And now as they dip down the old oval, still in the slipstream, of course, of that Audi in front of him, and in towards the Ascari chicane, probably one of the funnest corners on the circuit. Got to clip that first apex quite well, run as close as you can to the second bit without launching yourself over the sausage curbs, and the final part, the most tricky part, is being able to nail that apex, get the exit without finding yourself in the gravel trap on the exit. And now on the run once again in towards the Parabolica. Again, a corner that is so important because it's tight going in, but very wide coming out. You can carry so much speed in, braking just after the 100 board. You can see Scott McFall a little bit more committed than the number 5 machine just in front of him, getting the best exit possible, as is going to be the case. You need to maximize the exit of Parabolica. Though fortunately for a hot lap, it's not too important because you do get the run, a short run to the line on the pit straight. There is a lap from Scott McFall, and it is good enough only for second place at this point in time because Olivier Boltonic, our reigning champion, 0.4 of a second clear, which is definitely no mean feat.
We got through that. Fantastic. Got through it in 1 minute and 47 seconds there for the Audi driver. We have Go Team Blade there out there for Milky. Wow, you got through it, and you refused to call it Alboreto corner. It's both at the moment. You know, they're still keeping it. They're still keeping it Parabolica and Alboreto. It's split between them. But don't forget, it's Michael Alboreto that, as I completely cut through there. Of course, I forgot about that corner being that turn. You are right. My apologies. That used to be the kink, isn't it, in the turn 1 and 2? And that's where you got me tricked on that one because I thought, hang on, it's the same. But yeah, it is missing those turns. But, you know, what about Michael Alboreto, of course, the Ferrari driver that drove for many years in Formula 1? That's the reason why they called it that corner.
It's changed. It's always been the Parabolica because it's a parabola. It's what the corner's been called for so long. It's built so much history around it. You can't just change it like that. If you want to call it Alboreto, find a new corner to call it. You know, find a corner that's unnamed, something like that. Because racing fans don't like change at all. And when you've built the circuit and you've got that history around a corner, you can't just change it and expect people to go along with it. Yes, it's the Alboreto. Yes, it's for a good cause. But for me, it'll always be Parabolica. It's like changing Ascari to Leclerc, sort of thing. It's not right.
Oh wow! Changing Ascari to Leclerc. Oh, guess what? We're about to do it, but you've only got generally 11 turns, I believe, in the regular Formula 1. 9 now, yes, but regularly on the regular Formula 1 track. So what turns are you going to name? There's only 11 of them.
You know, just
9
leave it.
Now. Yeah.
Build an extension, just leave the track.
You say if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly, it's Monza. Why would you change it? Why would you? It's Monza.
True. On board, Lewis Archer, the man that puts this fantastic series here for United Touring Car Championship on. He popped in and had a bit of a chat to us before, and he says, "G'day, how you all going? We're going good. I hope you're going okay there, Mr. Archer." And on top of it, he said, I need to get back to practice at the moment. I think he's feeling like he needs to get a few more laps under his belt here in Monza. And I'm expecting the heavy braking coming up right now, but it's not going to happen, of course. Don't have to turn right. Go straight. You're not going to see halo on halo action like you do in Formula 1 in turns 1 and 2. But you will see this straight line speed, as you said, into... Whoa! Both of them here. And is that because it's set into a drift contest? Fantastic.
How? I don't know, because unless they're ripping the handbrake up, I don't know how they're getting those cars sideways, but they are. And under traction as well, it's not even like they're sort of using the weight of the car. They are just putting the throttle down and it's going sideways. So, yeah, fair enough. That does take some courage to do, is to put it in the nicest way possible. I'm sure we're not going to see that in the race, but Lewis Archer, I think, just showing off for the broadcast.
Oh, yeah, they're both of them are drifting, because I mean, it's kind of like you do tend to follow cars, don't you? That's what happens a lot in motorsports. Somebody does one thing and then you tend to do the exact same thing that they're doing because you're spotty. That means that you're racing the car ahead of you as a racing line, essentially, rather than your racing line. And as you can see right now, fighting the Hyundai as much as he possibly can out of Ascari and then down the short straightaway. He's gonna hit the beep in his ear. That'll be the DRS that you won't be activated, of course, in the touring cars. I'm so used to Formula 1 that I usually cast. And I'm so used to them actually being into Alboreto corner, right? But already before he gets in here, but is on the power now, up to 4th gear, goes as wide as possible. Use the track limits. Usually, if you're on a sprint qualifying, you would go hugging that wall, like your favourite grandma, as Martin Bondrel would say. Up in the 5th gear, you don't need to do that because they're not having the downforce of a Formula 1 car. And at the moment, he hasn't really put in a decent lap that you'd expect from Mr. Archer.
Yeah, he didn't actually set a time on that last time round, so I'm assuming he got an off track, which unfortunately invalidated his lap time. Olivier Boulton and Scott McFall both have just invalidated their lap times as well. But at the moment, the benchmark is a 45.68, though 0.7 of a second in qualifying is going to be completely negated when it comes to the race, as long as Scott McFall can stay in the slipstream. Same to with Adam Delmont and Stuart Gibbons. As long as they can stay in the slipstream and not fight amongst themselves, they have a pretty good chance of staying with Boltonic. And of course, we do have 2 races, a sprint and a feature. We reversed the grid for the feature, which is going to be very interesting, I think, for a racing standpoint, for those that finished high up in the sprint to then have to come back through in the feature. It's going to be quite hard. It's going to be sort of oval style racing, I think, around here.
Oval style racing, because it practically is an oval, isn't it, with that 9 turns at the moment. Look at the slipstream happening here between the teammates. Just trying to get that toe as much as possible to go straight on. And we're looking at Mr. Callum and his teammate behind him. I believe the teammates, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, I'm relatively new to casting this, but those liveries look pretty damn similar to me.
I'd say so. I'd say that's a fair assumption. I think it is the blade. Honestly, I don't know the blade cars, I think, but they're using the two variations of the Hyundai. I think it's the Elantra and... I'm trying to test my iris knowledge. I know there's the Elantra. I don't know quite what the other one is, but it's one of them, and I think it is the Blade Motorsports ones. But honestly, in terms of the team championship, I'm not too well versed in that one. I'm more focused on the drivers, because that is where sort of the fun bit is. There, though, goes Lees up onto the top of the timing tower by less than 1/10 of a second. Mikel Lees, 45.59. is now the standard. Scott McFall also up in the second. Olivier Boltonic demoted to 3rd. And coming into the final 5 minutes of qualifying, we have a less than 1/10 of a second covering the top 3 on the grid. And I think that is very, very close indeed.
It is very, very close. This is Mark currently in P4. I wonder if that toe is going to help him get that Hyundai up into the 84 car a little bit more pace, as he's really tucked up in the gearbox of his teammate, as you'd mentioned. And let's go aboard with him, ride shotgun. And where's our seatbelts? Where's our seat if we're riding shotgun right now? Will he improve? Mr. Mark Draper, as he crosses the line, coming up soon. Bang. I don't think so. He's in P4 and remains in P4. Any other surprises? Obviously committing to another lap. This is what I just going to definitely throw me off, of course, because I'm just so used to braking there and turning, but he goes around his teammate, and now he's going to have to be the dirty air and brake it around. You said this is it, isn't it? I mean, the Curva Grande is going to be one of the key.
Do or die.
Do or die. Yeah, it's Curva de Serrero or something like that I'm seeing in my SDK software, but it's not. We know it's Curva Grande. We're not changing any names at the moment because, as Zachary said, he's set in his ways.
I will throw a temper tantrum. I will kick my toys at the pram. I will. I don't know. Honestly, yeah. I'll be very mad. I'll write a petition, or I'll cancel the sec on Twitter, or something along those lines. But yeah, no, it is good to of course see the teammates working well together. I think that is the theme that we're seeing. Olivier Boltonic, of course, gets himself back up onto pole position, though only by just 11 thousandths of a second ahead of Mikael Lee. So not much between the pair of them. Though, again, as we said, the slipstream is going to be of vital importance, and it is good to see this team dynamic starting to play a factor. We haven't seen it too much over the course of this season, though now it really does help to have someone to work with, to do a lap in front, to do a lap behind, and then ebb and change over the course of the qualifying session, because it is to reach the better mutual position for everyone. So yeah, it's nice that these guys are working quite well together, though it does mean that those without sort of a friend, the loners, let's put them, don't quite have the same advantage, which take it as you will, but I think that you've definitely got to have someone with you if you want to succeed in this qualifying session.
And succeeding is what you need to get for your qualifying, because you only have 2 minutes and change to go currently at the moment. And once again, the Audi mastermind himself, Mr. Oliver, looks pretty quick there. The Belgian driver with the quickest time on the board at 1:45.5. Very close, of course, with the British driver. And Scott McFall sneaks his way up into P2 currently at the moment. Look at those Audis working together here, for sure, side by side. So he's given Scotty a tow. That's Oliver that's given Scotty a tow. Looking good there for the Sim District 5 eSports team, 1 and 2.
Yeah, again, it's similar to cycling, as I said, sort of just in the pre-show of them working well together. It's going to be the same in over the course of the races as well. They don't really have much to play in terms of pit strategy. Of course, Monza naturally is going to demand a lot more of the engine at such high speeds, but they don't have to worry too much about fuel loads. They do have to take a mandatory drive through over the course of the race, which I think this race of any is going to have the most strategical importance, because if you come in by yourself and you lack that slipstream, you are going to sort of just be beached by yourself. You need to sort of time it well so that you come out either with traffic or you come in at the same time with someone else, because yeah, taking your drive through while you're completely by yourself is going to be a little bit backwards. But again, we'll have to wait and see. It is a complete unknown. That's sort of why we have this circuit. I mean, we have got a brilliant schedule of circuits. We've already seen it over the course of the first few weeks of the season already, been to the likes of Kota, Rhodes, Red Atlanta, Donington Park, Brands Hatch, and somewhere else as well. I'll check in just a second. But yeah, it's a brilliant schedule. Callum Reed-Garton, of course, going up into pole position at the moment by a pretty hefty margin, it must be said, and leading the way in the train. So not doing too bad of a job at all. But yeah, Monza, it's sort of that anomaly in a sense, because it's so different in how you have to race it compared to everywhere else on the calendar.
Absolutely. And as you said, it kind of really reminds me of doing a lot of IndyCar casting as well too, and especially on ovals, coming in alone to pit road, pit lane, and not getting a tow is very difficult. So I was surprised that you'd mentioned that it's a good thing to do here with these touring cars. I didn't think they're going to have that sort of massive slipstream, but you are absolutely correct, because you can see at the moment when the teammates do work together, it shaves a couple of tenths off. And you're wondering at the moment here if Oliver getting that notice, and he's on his flying lap final. Too late, it's already over. Qualifying's done and dusted. And that obviously means at the moment that let me get this, if I can show this information up there correctly for the qualifying. It should come up in a second, but there it is. So, as you said, Callum stole it away from the Audis in the very last dying stages of the qualifying.
He did indeed. He takes pole position by just over 2.5 tenths clear of Olivier Boltonic. Callum Reed-Garton has been a man really on form. Scott McFall and Mikael Lees will round off your second row of the grid. With Mark Draper, your top 5. Adam Delmont there in P6 with Kisper Byram. And Jens Goosens, your 4th row of the grid. Dan Babick and Lewis Archer round off your top 10 with Alec Manali just in behind in P11. Sean Roberts will join him on the 6th row of the grid with Stuart Gibbons, Dominic Herbert 13th and 14th. Jakey GB and Liam Silkstone the rest of the grid 15th and 16th. Only 16 cars on the grid, but just before we go to the lights, Dean, what are your predictions for this race? What are we thinking? Is it going to be our pole sitter that takes it all the way, or are we going to have a surprise winner?
Oh, he's got to look out for those Audis working together behind him in P2 and P3. So it's got Scott McFall there and Oliver. I don't know. He's got to do something. He's gridding up at the moment. He will be starting, obviously, on the left-hand side. Now, that's obviously crucial when it comes into those turns 1 and 2, but they've been removed in this one, so you can go straight on. Maybe looking for an overtake into Curva Grande would be the key, isn't it? And then if you don't get it done, you're going to be following their way through the Lesmos. I don't think if you're bold and brave to do it through Ascari, but the heat race, of course, will be... Just heard a massive crack of thunder. Unfortunately, there's no rain coming here, but there'll be rain coming to me. That's the typical, 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Yep, rain time. They are gridding up. You always ask me, see how I've just completely avoided your answer on that one? Tricky.
Cleverly done. Yeah. Cleverly done. Yeah, well done. Touche. Well, we will find out in 11 laps time here around the Monza circuit, the brilliant home of Italian motorsport. The 5 red lights will soon illuminate your screens. Callum Reed-Gutton on pole. Olivier Boltonic alongside. The lights go out. We are underway here in Monza, and a brilliant start there from the 3rd place man of Scott McFall, already trying to catapult himself through the middle. A poor start from our pole sitter Callum Reed-Gutton, side by side between Boltonic and McFall. McFall just getting his nose ahead as they barrel their way towards Curva Grande. T1, of course, not hammering themselves onto the brakes for the Rettifido chicane, side by side between the 2 Audis as they run their way through. Everyone else just trying to pick their way 2 by 2 Noah's Ark, multiple rows deep. The Scotsman trying to go the long way round of his teammate. Brilliantly done if he can keep his nose there. Great respect between the 2 championship rivals. Boltonic now on the outside as they head in towards the modified Roger, and Scott McFall getting himself ahead. That was a brilliant start.
Absolutely amazing. Here's how they get a little bit twirly-whirly at the moment. There is big time!
Oh!
Accident into the fence, upside down, and perhaps definitely not out completely, but what just happened? We'll have to go back to the action. We'll check it out in a minute with the replay, but that's not the way. That's a little bit of a Code Brown moment, I'd have to say, too, for the outer driver. But the other one, of course, the Belgian driver leading this race, he's just at the moment probably checking on the radio going, I hope my teammate is okay.
Yeah, that F1 22.
Whoa!
With,
Go twirly in the background there. This is losing the traction here.
Dancing around going into Ascari. That was brilliantly done. But yeah, that was an F1 22 moment. You know, are you all right? Let me know you're okay when you smack into the barrier at 220 miles an hour. But yeah, Scott McFall, a big hit. And Callum Reed-Gutton warming up the tyres. I'm not too sure what the thought process is there, but he's allowing Olivier Boltonic to sort of get away and really weaving using the full extent of the circuit. I'm baffled. I don't know what he's doing, but those tyres are for sure going to be a little bit warm. But Olivier Boltonic will lead the first lap. Callum Reed-Gutton a little bit lucky to stay in 2nd place. He'll be followed by Mark Draper, Mikel Lees and Chris Byram, your top 5 as we round off lap 1 of 11 here in Monza. And already Boltonic, people weaving around, trying to break that slipstream, because for Boltonic to have a margin of just under a second now is massive. And if he can break away, it's his race to lose.
Yeah, weaving exactly trying to get temperature into those tyres, but maybe weaving a little bit too much and the rear end slips out. But here's the battle currently for P4 and 5 and 3. We'll see. There's your Curva Grande going. Oh, power slide. Look at this from Chris. Someone else is off up the road there as well too. So
word.
Absolutely no traction whatsoever. Lewis Archer just making the
my word.
Wow.
Lewis Archer. Oh, that is a rear wing gone. That is the Monza setup if I've ever seen it. Beached in the gravel as well with an engine blowout. That is interesting. Now Mark Draper up in a 2nd place. We've lost the likes of Adam McNally, Scott McFall, Liam Silkscombe, Sean Roberts, Chris Byram, and Stuart Gibbons, and Dominic Herbert. Now already we've lost a good half of our grid to the pit lane already. And wow, I don't know what to say to that one at all. They were practicing that maneuver in qualifying, going sideways through Curva Grande, but hey-ho, we still have the top 6 still at the moment pointing in the right direction. But yeah, well, that is an interesting turn of events. Olivier Boltonic a little bit wide off the exit of Ascari. This could invite Mark Draper to have a look to the inside of the Parabolica. Weaving in the background is that Callum Reed-Gutton, still trying to get some temperature into those tyres or whatever he's trying to do. Mark Draper pushing the black Audi in towards Parabolica, having a bit of a look more so to just spoil his braking point. But yeah, Olivier Boltonic once again needs a lap. Not entirely sure as to what happened there, but something did.
I know. We even get a chance to go to the replay here in a second because we still got a bit of racing to go, but that's just amazing. We will go back to the replays, of course. We do have them. Don't want to miss the action, but yeah. Wow. There is definitely a lot of basically winded drivers, of course, with the wind knocked out of them. It's in the pit road at the moment. That's a lot of cars you'd mentioned. They're all in the pits as they're these guys are putting another lap on top of them. I think in the moment, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 14 cars in pit road.
Yeah, that is a pretty hefty amount of the grid. We only have the 5 of the lead pack that we see in shot now that are actually on circuit, and the speeds that you're going, if you crash here, you are going to be in the pit lane for a good while. Those mechanics, they better be paid well and better be paid overtime for sitting past curfew to repairs those cars. And of course, while you do get the meatball flag here on iRacing, the mandatory repairs are not what you want to repair. You want to repair everything because the mandatory ones will get you to a point where the car will start and you will move, and that is it. You will not be anywhere near competitive, though if you want to take the optional repairs, you're probably going to be there for a couple of hours, and a couple of hours is an amount of time that these guys do not have at all. But for those that have managed to keep it clean, and of course Callum Reed-Garton there in 5th place as well, just to exclude them just a little bit. The top 4, Olivier Bottnick, Mark Draper, Mikael Lees, Adam Delmont, you can see there, also with Callum Reed-Garton just in 5th place. Also, those are the ones to be fighting for the race lead as we head to round off lap 3. They are pretty short and sharp, these laps, even though it's nearly a 2-minute lap. They're ticking down quite fast.
Of course they're ticking down quite fast, and that's of course if you're not in the pit lane getting your repairs at the moment, as everybody's making their way around Alboreto corner. Of course you can love me for that one, and we're on board right now, and the man currently running in P5 looking at this whole train up the road, of course, with the Belgium driver leading this train to start lap 5. Lap 4 should be 5, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, it doesn't really matter about the lap times. It's all about the time itself. Oliver under attack, but right now there from Mr. Mark.
Side by side now on the run towards Curva Grande, you can see is Olivier Bottnick going to try and go the long way around. Also side by side in the background as Callum Reed-Garton tries to go to the inside of Adam Delmont. We'll focus our attention for this fight for first because Olivier Bottnick keeping Mark Draper honest to the left-hand side. You can see the blue and yellow Hyundai of Mark Draper on the outside, the black Audi of Olivier Bottnick now back into the lead. But you can see here, here's Mikael Lees catapulting himself into the braking zone of the first Lesmo. Mark Draper caught out entirely by the flying Hyundai to his inside. Brilliantly done, very opportunistic by Mikael Lees. Up now into 2nd place. Mark Draper demoted. Callum Reed-Garton, his Blade Design Motorsport teammate, also following him through. I think that is Mark Draper pulling over maybe to let his teammate through, but following in the slipstream, of course, of Mikael Lees. Callum Reed-Garton, he's on a resurgence back to the front.
Unbelievable. Fantastic racing. As Scott McFall out there says, well, it's 0 to hero time. Of course it was for you, Mr. Scotty. We will go back and have a look at that replay in a minute of your nasty crash, but it's good to see you're out of the medical center and checked up to be all okay. And remember, we have more racing to come, so that's just one of many. And at the moment, this is still, Olivier is but still weaving, aren't they? Trying to get the temperature into the tires. I thought by now you would have enough temperature into them, but obviously the car is disagreeing with that.
Not sure what it is. Maybe they're just being... maybe they've just had one too many cocktails tonight. I don't know. Callum Reed-Garton, though, nonetheless, is getting a good drive off the Parabolica now down the pit straight. And, well, we can see there that Mikael Lees is going to have the slipstream benefit from Olivier Bottnick, though. Is that going to be enough to keep the Hyundai at bay? Of course, they are both in the Hyundais, but the attacking Hyundai of Callum Reed-Garton to his inside, is that enough to keep him at bay? Because Olivier Bottnick, meanwhile, is going to pull away. And Callum Reed-Garton just has to tuck in behind and concede that place, at least for now, though a little bit wide, taking the curb through Curva Grande. Hero a 0 moment, and that is going to allow Callum Reed-Garton up into 2nd place. So you can see there, I think the main sort of killer of Curva Grande is that inside curb, because they're going so quickly. Any slight disturbance really does upset the car.
Oh, I know, and these cars are quite heavy as well too, but they bounce quite well. No porpoising effect here. Well, porpoising effect, of course, if you hit those chicanes at top speeds. You see a little bit of a runoff there out of the 2nd Lesmo for most of those drivers. Once again, copying each other, really. Racing against their own racing, well, the other cars as a racing line rather than their own. I've always said if you're the driver, a.k.a. this driver at the moment, the Belgium driver leading this race, tear off those mirrors from the engineer. Don't even bother. There is no mirrors in your car. Just focus ahead. Don't focus on what's happening behind you at the moment, and that's those... As you can see, the only soul, I believe, at this moment are remaining cars, those 5, because everybody else, and even the ones that are in the chat right now, Mr. Lewis and Chris and everybody else, is out of this race.
Yeah, they're chilling. They've got their cup of tea. They're eating their whatever. They got their crisps in their lap. Whatever they're doing, just trying to enjoy the action. Maybe they're going through the replay of the race in iRacing and having a look at what happened. Because even for us, it was a lot to digest. Sort of as they were saying in the YouTube chat, about 4 crashes all in one, pretty much. As Lewis Archer, I'll quote the man himself, said it was very chaotic, but we're still getting some good racing. We had a fairly clean start until Scott McFall put it in the barrier going into the Roger, but hey ho, that is something that hopefully we won't see again in race 2. We have got still 5 cars fighting for the lead here for race number 1, and just ticking over halfway done as we once again head into Curva Grande, turn number 1 as it's deemed for this layout of the circuit. And as you say, Olivier Boltonic is trying his best not to look backwards. Adam Dalman putting some pressure on Mark Draper to the outside of the modified Roger. Is it going to be the line that he's going to want? No, because just look at how fast they're going in. If you're running side by side through there, it's just a death wish. It's like running through the side by side through sort of just going out of what's the corner at Monaco, going through the left, and then you've got the tight swimming pool sort of the S's. That is exactly what the case is. There's Mikel Lees though going off through the second Lesmo. And again, it's so difficult to run side by side purely because of the speed and momentum you're carrying into all of these corners.
Yeah, well, you saw what happened when cars were going side by side through that corner you'd mentioned there before. And once again, we'll try to get those replays pictures up in a minute, but we have to choreograph it with these gladiators are remaining, and Centaurians here in Italy, of course. They've already earned their status. They're not gladiators anymore. They're rumbling right now in the arena of Monza. And look at that. So now the 2 at the front are battling, and then this is the other squabble at the back behind them. This could be 3-way into Parabolica. Oh, it's possible. Here we go. Hold on tight. Put your tray tables up right. They're going to back off, aren't they? Somehow.
Somehow they managed to make it through there. Mikel Lees sending one to the inside, but Adam Dalmont was just like, nah, mate, you do that. I'm going to go up this way and then cut back underneath you straight away again. And what this is doing is allowing Olivier Boltonic and Callum Reid-Garton to pull away now to the margin of just under 3 seconds, which is a big advantage for them. So they're saying, let's go. Let's leave them. Let's let them do their thing. We'll get away, and then we'll fight it out once we're clear. And in the clear, they're sort of taking each other out as have half the grid done. But you can see there, just following on the rear wing of the Belgian of Olivier Boltonic, you can't even see them. And we've already exited Curva Grande. They're the little dots in the background, which is just how far ahead now these 2 cars are. So it is split into 2 packs. Well, actually 3. I think Mikel Lees is dropping off the back of Adam Dalmont and Mark Draper. But again, that is another fight that we'll have to see progress. But it is a fight for the lead, and then I think just a 3-horse fight for the final podium place, because at this rate, I cannot see that the train of cars behind catching back onto the back of these 2.
No. As you said, it's almost like you're flying at 30,000 feet, isn't it? You look at little dots of the cars down on the track while you're in the aircraft, while they look at little dots at the moment. I don't think they're even worried about those little dots behind them, because they're battling it out for the lead of the race. And you said it's because of the slipstream, isn't it? You got to basically hug together. You got to find somebody to race with, use the slipstream to your advantage or not. And they're doing it quite well. And I wonder if you're just happy to sit there at the moment. Just happy to sit in P2 there and stare at the rear gearbox of the Audi, and then wait for your time to shine as the top click clocks its way, and they're click clocking their way around Curva and Ascari. No, not Ascari. Forget that one. El Barretto, as you love to say. Here we go.
Yeah, Callum Reid-Garton once again pushing Olivier Boltonic through. We tick off yet another lap with only about 4 to go, actually, including lap number 8. Is Reid-Garton going to have a bit of a look down into Curva Grande? I don't think that is going to be the case. Again, as you say, they are hugging each other very tightly. It's they're enjoying themselves. Let's say that much. They've booked themselves a hotel room for after this race. At least some of them might. Whatever they get up to in their Instagram DMs before and after each race, I'm not sure. But yeah, at least for the purpose of Monza, they are staying very, very close together and using each other to each other's benefit. And as soon as you lose that, it's just a massive disadvantage, the one that you don't want to have, because as we've seen between Mark Draper, Adam Dalman, and Mikel Lees. Oh my word, is Lees
he's going to come back
and lose. Oh, he's going to come back. Oh,
I was going to say.
Dalman. Oh my word, that's both of them now, Beach. That drops us from 5 to 3.
Yes,
and
exactly.
With 2 of them 3 seconds up the road, it's now very much a 2-horse race for the lead.
Just like that, it's down. You're pretty much guaranteed a podium position right now if you can bring this car home. I'd have to say. The bubbly stuff's waiting for you in the first heat race. If you can... Well, Netflix, guess what? This is the new Drive to Survive series here in Italy. Pineapple on your pizza or not, but one thing you have to do is bring the car home and bring the car home in the highest possible position, and whether or not this Audi driver can hold off for a couple more laps, as you can just see clearly in the background there that the Hyundai is just happy to sit back there and chill and relax for a little bit. And once again, team radio from them is saying another one bites the dust behind them, another two bite the dust. Here we go, at the start lap 9.
Yeah, well, I mean, for Reed Garton, a move at this stage isn't going to matter too much. He's not, if he gets back part, if he goes in front of Olivier Boltonic, Boltonic's just going to come right back at him in the next lap. So he's waiting, ideally, for sort of the final lap. Because then Boltonic doesn't have time to launch the counter-attack. Reed Garton definitely is putting some pressure on, but only time will tell when he actually wants to get back through. We saw riding on board with Boltonic there, really on to the upper limits of the rev range of the car, even in their highest gears, was being told to shift, but just didn't want to. Going into Curva Grande, now in towards the Roger again. All Reed Garton have a bit of a look, and the advantage that you have with the slipstream is so exponential. The closer you get, the more you gain, and then that is just that feedback loop of just closing and closing and closing, and it's so quick. I think it is part a reason as to why we've seen so many incidents, because people don't realize how much you're going to gain, and then you're just suddenly onto the back of someone, and then you're at a corner and then bang, and then it's piled up, which is a theme that we've seen a lot throughout this race. So yeah, that slipstream, the increased speed in the cars, and of course the heavy braking zones, the heavy demand of these cars, you have to be on the limit. And for a lot of the cars, it's been just a little bit too over that limit. And when it comes to that, it's the smallest of mistakes, and it leads into some of the biggest consequences.
Oh, I think they are realizing at the moment what you just mentioned, because they're all watching this from pit road, having a look at another possible attack. I think he's just happy once again to sit back here. Is he going to maybe someone up the inside? No, he's sitting a dummy, of course, filling the mirrors. Olivier trying to throw Olivier off his racing line as they're scrubbing some speed out wide there, not scrubbing yourself into the fence like one of the other drivers. And real quick, to go back to one of those first accidents that happened. Here's Scotty. And this was one of the first accidents of the race, as Scotty doesn't want to be reminded of that one, and bang into the fence. Remember, he was in a great position, he said, from hero to zero. As we go back to the live pitches, we'll try to get some more of those up for you, because trust me, there's a lot of crashes to focus on, but we have to focus on the penultimate lap of the first heat race here, and whether or not our Belgium hero can hold off the flying British driver in P2.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a bit of time, I think, between race 1 and race 2, so it might be a good opportunity to maybe scroll through and have a bit of a look if we can. But yeah, now into the final stages of this first of 2 races. Of course, we go to a 15-lap race straight after this, reverse grid, which I'm not quite sure is going to work. I'm being told it's going to count back from whoever span first. But again, we'll only wait and find out, see how the grid lines up in a few moments' time. Olivier Boltonic versus Callum Reed Garton for the race lead. They've been right on each other pretty much for the entirety of the apocalypse, I guess, is the term you can call these stragglers, the survivors of the insane crash that we saw a little bit earlier on. But they've been fighting for the lead and really pulling away from Mark Draper, because there's nothing Draper can do. He's not getting any benefit from those behind, all those in front. So yeah, it's a straight fight, but with about 1 and a bit laps left to go in this race, you have to say it could go either way.
Well, I was about to say, it's Eye of the Tiger, isn't it? If you're talking about that, that's what's the tunes in my head at the moment. I'm wondering what the drivers will be having in their car, isn't it? You got the pumping, the adrenaline, the heart rate will be through the roof. I'd love to see a monitor on the heart rate of these drivers, because now it's crunch time, isn't it? It's win or P2. Either way, you'd hope so. Or they want to see both each other on the fence, but here we go. It's time to perhaps make an overtake, as they're not going to go on to turn 1. They're going to go straight through turns 1 and turn 2 and then make their way through. You called this early, didn't you? You say Curva Grande could be the key here.
It could be, well indeed, and it could be the deciding factor. Olivier Boltonic on the outside, Reed Garton on the inside. It's going to be very, very close, perilously close indeed, flirting with disaster the more they fight, because of the high-speed demands of Monza, at least in this variation. Reed Garton up into the lead, Olivier Boltonic willing just to sit behind for now, through the Roger for the final time, and in towards the Lesmos 1 and 2. Heavy braking zone, not quite much that Boltonic can do, but with about half a lap left to go, where can Boltonic find a way through? Oh, a little bit wide, that could be it.
I'd say that's it for sure, isn't it? It has to be. You're on the last lap, and they've been so close together. That tiny little mistake after leading essentially majority of the race, all of a sudden it comes down to just one corner and one lap, and there it is. I mean, it's going to be, unless you last the late breakers right now into a scurry, that's it. I'd have to say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Boltonic, he's got one more chance, I would say, through. He needs to nail Ascari. He needs to hope that Reed Gutton gets a little bit caught up on this apex right here. That's not going to be the case. Slipstream now down towards Parabolica for the final time. Reed Gutton has put on an unrelenting amount of pressure onto the rear end of Olivier Boltonic, but all he's got is one corner left to go, the famous Parabolica. He's got to break sort of on point. Boltonic closing the gap. Could it be a drag race to the line? Last of the late breakers for Boltonic. Twitchy under brakes, but Callum Reed Gutton, as long as he can keep it clean on the exit, he's going to go from pole to flag here in Monza. Race number 1 of round 9 of the United Touring Championship, and it's going to go the way of Callum Reed Gutton. Ticks off yet another victory, flashes the lights, and will be followed by Olivier Boltonic, the Belgian, in P2. Mark Draper a few seconds back there in P3 to be the last of those that did actually make it to the checkered flag. What a race in many a sense that was. And well, bring on race 2.
I was going to say, there's still a couple of drivers that actually got lapped almost towards the end there. And there they are there. So Jakey and Dan. But what a driver, timing it perfectly, isn't it? To the last monito of the race and getting it done when it needed to be getting done. And they actually started and finished, I believe, in the same positions that they did currently at the moment. Well, yeah, well, as I said, crazy race. It certainly was. But everybody gets another chance as they have a little bit of it. Like, he taps his teammate right now. His teammate's almost going to reverse back into him. But the race is over. Results will come up in just a minute. Not many, of course, finishes for the first heat.
Well, it was an interesting race, to say the least. There's many an adjective that you can use to describe that one. But Callum Reed Gutton gets pole, the fastest lap, and the race victory. So a ton of points going his way. Of course, languishing sort of I think in the midfield of the championship, despite taking a number of race wins in his short stay here in the United Touring Championship. He is one to watch for sure, maybe towards the tail end of this season if it doesn't quite go the way of Boltonic or Scott McFall, because Scott McFall hasn't had the best of races at all. So it could, swing the bad luck the way of Olivier Boltonic, and boom, Callum Reed Gutton could be in the mix. We'll take a look at the results as best we can. He's 4th, we're being told. Of course, we don't have the updated standings. We only know them as of Donington, which was a couple of weeks ago. We had Brands Hatch last week, which, I haven't had actually a chance to take a look at, but I'm sure it was a great race. And again, we'll have to get the updated standards as soon as we can. But in terms of the race finishing order for this race, we know that Callum Reed Gutton, Olivier Boltonic, and Mark Draper were those that made it to the checkered flag. But yeah, apart from that, it was carnage, chaos. It was basically those that could survive scored quite well, to say the least. But yeah, it was an interesting race. Here are the final finishing orders. Callum Reed Gutton took the win, just over 0.3 of a second clear of Olivier Boltonic. Mark Draper, your podium. Mikel Lees, Adam Delmont 4th and 5th. They were the last of which to be taken out 3 laps down off our race leaders. Unfortunately, took each other out going through the Roger in towards the first of the 2 Lesmos. Dan Babbitt P6, Jakey GB P7, Chris Byron P8, Sean Roberts P9, Dominic Herbert P10, Stuart Gibbons, Jens Goosens, Lewis Archer, Liam Silkstone, Scott McFall, and Adam McNally. Your I say finishing order, your order. Let's put it that way.
And unfortunately, everything's kind of reset now because we're in a warm-up for our next race, and I don't have those replays anymore. So you guys are going to have to just watch it back later there and scroll back through all that action that happened with those crashes. And now drivers at the moment, of course, are going to be strapping themselves as tightly as they can in those seatbelts, especially after that first heat race, to make sure that, if the fence does come out, and that it is always the fence that comes out and hits you. You never hit the fence.
It's not the speed that kills you. Yeah. It's suddenly becoming stationary that does it, which for a lot of people would have been the case if we weren't in the virtual world. But hey, no harm, no foul, because it's pretend race cars. Is to be brutally honest, if that was real life, I don't think they would have ran this layout at all. But hey, it's sim racing. I think that's the wonder of it, is the fact that you can go from danger to danger. You can race anything, anywhere, and at any time, which again is why we love sim racing, and makes it as special as it is. But yeah, it was an interesting addition to the calendar, I think, this.
Absolutely. For sure. We'll have a little bit of a breather. Have everybody a bit of a breather, including yourself. Get some H2O. We will be back in just a minute for the next race. Don't go anywhere.
You join us back here in Monza for round 10 of the United Touring Championship. We've just had a very hectic race number 1. You join myself, Zach Sweeney, and Captain Dean Biggles in the commentary booth. Once again, we just took a 5-minute break while the drivers were sorting themselves out on the grid. And while we're sorting the reverse grid out as well. It should be a fairly entertaining race, to say the least. We still have the drivers now gridding up. But yeah, well, Biggles, race 1 was something. But now we come into race 2, and are we expecting the same? Are we expecting something different?
I'm hoping we're expecting more cars to finish the race, as you'd mentioned, because a lot of DNFs, a lot of people were eager, of course. They were excited to definitely have that pineapple on their pizza. And now, I think you should be more excited about finishing the race rather than having to sit courtside with us or trackside in the chat there. But most of the drivers were keeping us entertained, weren't they? And welcome along, everybody, as we're gridding up for the feature race. And Mr. Scott, I don't quite sure what the grid order will be, but any time soon, we're going to see what is happening. It's already isn't it?
Yeah, we're going. Scott McFall was already on pole and managed to get underway. We saw the 5 red lights go and then go off. We couldn't quite catch the initial getaway, but we're here going into Curva Grande for Scott McFall, Lewis Archer, Dominic Herbert, Stuart Gibbons, and Liam Silkstone, your top 5 as they run their way through. There is Sean Roberts running side by side with the number 14. Chris Byram wants a slice of the pie as well, but it's a clean start for Scott McFall, not something he could have boasted after the end of race number 1. But with 15 laps, we're halfway done with it already, and it is Scott McFall that leads Lewis Archer in towards the first, the 2 Lesmos for the first time, side by side between just in behind a couple of cars. Kicked on to the gravel goes the Hyundai, and there's so many cars off doing so many different things. There's Jen Goosens just in the background, P16, Jakey trying to go to the outside and running their way down this back straight towards Ascari. A fairly clean start, at least for now, but you can see there drivers all over the place trying to find some space.
Absolutely apologise about that race start. Completely caught me off guard. James is usually the man in control of the production, but we didn't miss too much, of course. We can actually probably go back and look at the replay of the race start to see anything. But we caught the midfield pack at the moment, and as they make their way through Ascari, this is where the action zone is, the hot zone. But Scotty still leads from Lewis Archer, P1, P2, and they're up the road there. And look at this. Everybody survives through Ascari. It's nice to see, but up there, maybe under a little bit of attack there, will be Scott as he's going to make his way around Curva Parabolica for the first time for our feature race.
Yeah, pretty clean start, and I think a lot of people have learned from their mistakes because we have 16 more finishes than a couple more finishes than we did this time last race. We have all 16 still continuing on, though how long is that going to last for? A couple of people already in. Sean Roberts already taken his mandatory drive-through. They can take it at any point during the race. Side by side, just in front between Adam Delmont and is this Jakey GB as they run their way through, not in towards the Retifido chicane, of course. They go straight on in towards Curva Grande. And is Delmont going to have the nose ahead to be able to get himself up inside the top 5? He's going to run side by side with Jakey GB. Going to go the long way around. They're going to tap, drift in tandem, same 2 with Liam Silkstone just in behind. There's Chris Byram, I think, going off. Yes, indeed it is. Tumbling into the barrier, coming back onto the circuit. Everyone darting in avoidance. That is unfortunate for Chris Byram, but they run their way through in towards the Roger again. Olivier Bolsnick, where did he come from? Out of nowhere, now into 5th.
Exactly. Somebody just went straight into the fence behind that one as well. Action-packed straight on, I think, out of the second Lesmo, if I'm not mistaken. That might have been Callum as well. Replay real quick. Was it? Somebody went into the fence here. Let's have a look. That was the accident, and here it is. Yeah, he's lost it here. Bang. Take his teammate out as well. No, Mikey, no, as they would say. Here we go, but side by side, challenge 4. Currently running in P3 and P4. You can say, Olivia. Look at that, 11 positions gained. Man on a mission. Probably upset about just missing out on that first race win.
Yeah, well, he's the only person to beat him to the checkered flag. Callum Reed-Garton already out of this race, you have to say. Same too with his teammate of Mark Draper. That is a shame for both of them. But when Chris Byram is hurling himself back across the circuit, there wasn't much more he could have done. Dan Babic, the Croatian, trying to go to the outside. They're running very, very wide. Dan Babic taking the inside line, and then Liam Silkstone and someone else just trying to go the very long way around. It didn't quite work to their advantage, of course, but for Dan Babic, it was enough to hang on. But versus Liam Silkstone, they're going to run side by side down the pitch straight, and well, we've seen a number of times cars side by side, maybe even 3 wide into Curva Grande. That's an interesting line.
Oh yeah, I was going to say. Careful, guys. You have another 27 minutes of this race. You don't want to be all over and couple of laps. Don't tell them about race drivers. The race drivers! There's your Tokyo Drift once again, isn't it? Out of Curva Grande.
Oh my word, is that... oh, Mikael Lees, I think, just in the background. Oh my God, Dan Babik is sent into the barrier. Oh my goodness gracious, I don't even know what to say for that one. Completely rear-ended by Liam Silkstone, I think, going into that first chicane, actually, it is now.
This is what happened.
We're going to take another look at it. You can see there, Babik trying to get the car straight again, and then just tapped around by just turning, left hand down, trying to turn in. Didn't quite see the rear end of that Audi. And wow, that is a big one, especially one of the highest highest speeds you're going to reach at the circuit. That is not what you want to see at all. But still, we got the vast majority of people still running. Adam Delmont, Olivier Boltonic trying to work their way towards the front of Scott McFall, who leads the way from Lewis Archer by the margin of around about 0.7 of a second. Then a couple of seconds back is Herbert. A couple of seconds past that is Olivier Boltonic. So the early skirmishes really have spread this grid out early.
Now, Zachary, I know you've been a part of this fantastic racing series, of course, the United Touring Car Championship. We're round 9 and 10, mate. Have you seen an action-pack race like this?
I've seen action-packed races.
But
we haven't had we haven't had war zones. No.
Okay.
Yeah, not to my memory. Kota was a battleground, but we didn't have cars smacking into the barrier, gone 150 miles an hour. I'm not too sure what the top speed of these cars are. Can't be much more than 150 sort of to that area, but yeah, we just haven't seen it. I'm lost for words. It's something I haven't really seen at all in my experience as a commentator, because it's just something that is so anomalous that you don't see very often. But apart from sort of over racing, Indy racing, a couple of weeks ago I had an Indy race at Talladega. That was very interesting. And a stock car race at Daytona.
That's not supposed to be there, are they?
No. It's iRacing officials. They can go wherever they like. I also had a stock car at Daytona, which for a 90-lap race, 45 of which was spent under the caution, which goes to tell a lot about the race. But at least for the United Touring Championship, no, we haven't had anything like this, which is I don't know if I can welcome it, but for a one-off, it's interesting.
Well, it must be the Biggles blessing, isn't it? I'm bringing that. I'm bringing the medical car into Italy, of course, and thankfully that's the great thing about eSports racing. Of course, you get to live to see another day. You don't get to save 10% off your car insurance or whatsoever. It'll all be duct taped up and repaired for you in pit road. And of course, you get to hug your family and don't have any Grosjean moments, etc., etc. But Scotty is leading this race, currently watching the battle here between Adam and Olivier. Olivier, of course, a fantastic 12 positions gained and 8 positions gained for 777 car driver right now we're on board with. So, yep. And both of our leaders have entered the pit lane, so now they'll become P1 and P2.
Yeah, but only provisionally, of course, unless McFall and Archer have dismal runs through the pit lane, unless they've sped. Very easy to do here at Monza, because you come into the pit lane straight and it's hard to really judge your braking point. It's a slow pit lane as well, not a very long one, so Scott McFall and Lewis Archer coming in together is the best idea, so they can emerge and still slipstream off each other, and they will actually emerge still in some clear air. So getting their stop done quite early, which I think is the right thing to do, because right now they feed into some clear air still as their pack and duo, which is again going to allow them to sort of work off each other and build that gap. So hopefully for them, when Olivier Boltonic and Adam Delmont do come into the pit lane, they should still emerge first and second as they were. This is the incident that we saw a couple of moments ago that saw the end of Dan Babik's race. And again, just going into the Roger, turned across, bounced off, and at those speeds, as we said in race 1, the car is just way too sensitive.
And that was the one that bring about 3 cars involved in that. So here's the battle, still up the lead of the race there. 14 positions gained for Olivier. And once again, he likes to really run wide, doesn't he, through the final Lesmo. Get the DRS activation that you won't get, of course, and down the back straightaway. And then, of course, approaching, well, we all love it, don't we? Ascari coming up right now. Throw the car through Ascari. I hope it sticks to the road. And then, yeah, you get to tick that one off your bucket list to say, I survived Ascari and live to see another day. Now, you still have to make a pit stop, as you said. That's a t-shirt, isn't it? That's one I would like. Been
there, got the t-shirt for going through Ascari. Just get it on there with Monza layout, whatever. It would be a nice t-shirt. But yeah, going back to sort of what you were saying.
We have to go live
in terms
at
of
the moment. Sorry,
strategy.
my apologies. Not showing those pictures up there, which it should be. There it is. And they've entered the pit lane anyway, currently during that one right now, what Oliver has by himself. That's interesting, as you said. Is that a great thing to do, Olivier? We'll see.
I'm not sure. I mean, he was leading Adam Delmont, wasn't he? He sort of had to make that proactive choice. It was up to Adam Delmont whether he followed him in. But Olivier Boltonic was clear of Delmont, I think, so he had to come in by himself no matter what. And you can see there Boltonic falling in behind Scott McFall and Lewis Archer, both of them taken off sort of into the distance. So this race is just going to drag on. I think it is going to be a lot calmer than race one once everything's settled down. This is the fight at the moment for P1. Or P2, sorry, I should say, between JKGB and Mikel Lees. Both of them pushing each other through the second Lesmo, or first of the two Lesmos, I should say, sorry, and then into the second. This is only provisional, of course. This is not factoring in their pit stop, and oh my word, they're going to lose even more time. To the inside goes Mikel Lees of JKGB. I don't know what to make of that, to be completely honest. I mean, they're both pointing the right way, but I don't think GB is going to be, sunshine and rainbows about Mikel Lees finding his way through like that.
I think he's happy that when he did come off the track and came back in, he actually had the car there to tap off and correct his steering so he can point it in the right direction. Very, very lucky. Whenever, use your cars as your, really gets sloppy going through the Ascari. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it either. I don't know if you guys out there are going to make of it bad track, says Mark. It's a classic track. It's not bad. Depends on the drivers handling it. Of course, you have to tame the beast here in Monza.
It's a different layout. It's something they're not used to. I think if we had the normal rendition of Monza, we wouldn't have anything half as chaotic as this. But we tried. It's worth a go. And at least we now know for future not to do Monza without the first chicane, because it is just a recipe for disaster. Adam Delmont, JKGB, both into the pit lane. Same too with Mikel Lees, who is the fastest lap holder at the moment in this race. We'll see how they filter out relative to Olivier Boltonic, Scott McFall, and Lewis Archer, of course, the 4th, 5th, and 6th place people. Scott McFall is going to re-inherit the race lead naturally. Then his race has been phenomenal. There's Lewis Archer just in behind. Olivier Boltonic there, the black Audi towards the back of shot. Not quite the 30,000 foot spec that we looked down upon when we were cruising at high altitudes, but he's there. Adam Delmont rejoins in 6th place then, just in behind Herbert. But yeah, no, at this point, I would say it is Scott McFall's race to lose, unless Lewis Archer is able to close the gap. It is under a second, 0.7 of a second. So Lewis Archer does have an opportunity, especially considering, Scott McFall. If you put him under a bit of pressure, is he going to crack under it?
He's going to find out very, very soon. Just on 20 minutes time to find out about that one, as they've done their mandatory pit stops, as you mentioned. It is, yeah, you're right. We need that turn 1, turn 2, don't we, to kind of slow them down at the moment. They're going a little bit too quick into Curva Grande, and later on, of course, into the fence for some of the drivers. Audi's looking strong once again in the lead of this race from Jakey and Scotty. We're on board of Lewis Archer, of course, the man that puts on this fantastic. We can't speak bad about Lewis, of course. We can't even curse Lewis. That's the man that pays the bills.
No such thing as the commentator's curse, only bad driving, at least in my opinion. But I mean, Lewis Archer, I've got nothing bad to say about him. I always commend him because he's a legend when it comes to putting on the show, of course, here for the United Touring Championship, and of course for giving us the insight into F1. Let's put it that way. He lets us all enjoy F1 week in, week out, which again we can only commend him for, because for a lot of us we don't have access to it. Whether that be my dad hasn't paid the TV bill for F1, and I've been stuck without it for half the season. And then Lewis Archer comes along, he saves the day. He was my messiah, was Lewis Archer. So definitely got a lot of good things to say about him. Rooting for the pair of Scott McFall and Lewis Archer. Of course, no commentator's bias at all. We have to say completely impartial. And honestly, as long as we've got a good fight, I'm not too fast. As long as Lewis Archer can close the gap and put Scott McFall under a bit of pressure for the final half of this race, I'm looking forward to it.
We saw him inside that car before, isn't it? Look at this, as he makes it through. Look at that. It's scary, isn't it? If you're looking side on and not even forward, as you're focusing on Lewis and his helmet at the moment. Give us a wave if you can, not through Ascari, but hello, Lewis. Welcome. Does get through there. I got some F1 subscription for you. I'm more focused about the F2, of course. We come back to that one because Logan Sargent, of course, is just needs a couple of points there to be perhaps the a new American talent into Formula One, which you'd like to see, isn't it? Because Formula One having 3 races in the United States next season, you'd want to have a US driver on the grid. But back to this one, we have unfortunately we do have one US driver, and that is Mr. Sean Roberts. That's unfortunately nowhere on to be seen on track at the moment there from the United States. But you have a Scotsman, we can tell that right now, and that's Scotsman at the moment. It's Scott McFall leading this race there ahead of Lewis. And keep an eye there on Olivia in the background too, because Olivia remembers getting 12 positions and he's wanting revenge from losing that first race.
I mean, Olivier Boltonic has been a man of consistency over the course of this race. Reigning champion coming into it, of course. At least what I've been told from James. I wasn't around for last season, unfortunately. I would have loved to been. It was a last-minute call-down into COTA, and have stayed. They've just kept me like a lost puppy to commentate, which has been great because I've enjoyed week in, week out being here. But Olivier Boltonic, very fast driver, very consistent. I can't remember a race that they've won, but I can remember a lot of times they've been on the podium over the course of both races. So second in race 1, third in race 2, when Scott McFall has DNF'd in race 1, could win race 2, and then we've got Callum Regarton, who won race 1, but has again DNF'd in race 2, whereas Olivier Boltonic, podium both races, could be the case, and that is exactly what you want when you're charging for a championship.
You're exactly 100% correct, my friend. Zachary does his homework every single time he steps into the casting box, and good to be sharing the casting booth with you. I think we've casted together maybe once or twice, Zach. Maybe not at all, but you're very familiar to me, mate. You have the voice of a caster, the knowledge of a caster. Welcome along, lap 9 of 15 for our feature race at the moment, and Scotty is leading this one from the Sin District Vibe eSports racing team, but holding off and continuing to hold off Lewis. That's just chipping away, and we see that bump drafting that's going to be occurring probably very soon if he can manage to get the exit speed out of every corner he possibly can. Let's go right on board with Lewis Archer, and you tell me, my friend, as a race driver, or at least a caster if you get the time, where can Lewis make the gain here?
I mean, he has to rely on the slipstream. I mean, we can see there he's braking later going into Parabolica, coming out sort of later as well. He's sort of turning in later, getting on the power earlier to try and close the gap coming out of it. Use that slipstream. It is going to be the case of just utilizing the slipstream as best he can, because it's the deciding factor here at Monza. We can see they're 3/10 quicker on that previous lap. Has got about a third of the race left to go, does Lewis Archer. But if I was him, stay as close as possible. Use that slipstream. Right now, he's benefiting off the slipstream, but the more he benefits, the closer he gets, the more he benefits, until he gets to a point where it sort of negates because he can't really do much with it. But we can see now through Curva Grande that gap closing and closing and closing. And if he really was interested, he might go for the move in towards the Roger, pulling to the right-hand side because McFall is going semi-defensive, but we cut back in and he's tucked in just in behind. But yeah, Lewis Archer well cemented in this fight for P1. I think it is just going to be a case of picking and choosing, like what we saw with Callum Regarton in race 1, waiting for that prime opportunity to seize the race lead and then try and not look back after that. So for Lewis Archer, sit, wait for that last lap, then go for the move. It is risky because it's like do or die. It's wait, one opportunity, take it, and if it fails, then you haven't won. But I think that's his best chance of winning this race.
You're right, Mr. Zachary and Zach Star. It's because, remember, these drivers DNF'd in the first race, so they've had to study the tape, haven't they? And they've had to study the situation that occurred before, and now they're in that very much situation. So now they're playing the tape live, and they're going to have to probably do exactly what you just mentioned. Bite your time and wait until the very dying stages of this feature race and see when you get the overtaking. You see at the moment, Lewis isn't even going to think about going through. I keep calling it Alboreto now. I can't even remember what the corner's called. Parabolica. There it is.
Honestly, it's disappointing. It's shameful. It's heartbreaking. Parabolica. It's Parabolica. I mean, we won't go into that because I don't want to bore the audience or anyone, because I could go on for I could just say it's Parabolica. Could just take that stance, be boring with it. But no, it's Parabolica because, as I said, it's a parabola. It comes back on itself. That might just be my maths nerd seeking out whatever, but it's why it's a Parabolica, right? It's not an Alboreto. But anyway, we focus on our live action. Scott McFall, Lewis Archer still raging on lap 11 of 15. Is Lewis Archer going to eye up the move to the inside? You can see already pulling out to the left-hand side. Is he interested in going for the move? No, he tucks back in, pushes the rear end of Scott McFall going through the left-hand kink of the road. It's literally not even a corner at this point. It's just flat out. The only braking zone is here for the first Lesmo. Lewis Archer still, as we say, biding his time. Again, as you said, they haven't been this far into this race yet. They've, of course, done their practice over the course of the week. They've, loaded into practice sessions and done laps, but they haven't been in a race situation. This is their first experience of it because they didn't quite have that over the course of race 1. So for them, this is new ground. This is new territory. They're not quite sure as to what they're going to do for the remainder of this race. But that, again, is something that they're going to have to learn with experience, and only time will tell. Adam Delman sending one to the inside. Going through Curva Grande, just about manages to keep the car under wraps, keep it under control, though. His rival going to come back up to the inside of the Roger, side by side as they go through. And that was a pretty neat move there from Adam Delman.
Yeah, he maintains that current P4 position there. So as he moves his way up there, so the battle of the Hondas, 7-7 and the 21 car, he's gained 8 positions in this race currently at the moment. And sitting behind Mr. Olivier, who's sitting behind this battle for P1 and P2 in the closing stages of Monza. As you said, here is Parabolica. Of course, it used to be a bank corner. If you see right in the background where those vehicles are, that was the original track, of course, the banking elevation. Right there, as you can see in the pictures, where the fire truck is. Sure, you wouldn't want to be. Imagine adding that to this circuit and then removing turns 1 and 2, like you see. Imagine the exit speed you would have out of that one. Well, I'm sure Lewis Archer would like to have a little bit of that exit speed at the moment, as he's still trying to close down currently on Scott McFall.
Yeah, I mean, taken to the oval in these touring cars would be interesting, to say the least. You can, oh my word, just look at the closing speed Lewis Archer has. Look into the right-hand side. He's going to go for it into the Lesmo. Brilliantly done. Is Scott McFall going to get the up and under? Yes, he is. Gets the drive off the apex of the corner. Lewis Archer left there in the dust, but it was worth the go. He sent one to the inside under brakes. That was brave, bold, committed, whatever you want to call it. He's lost a bit of time, shaking his momentum a little bit, but what he's done is he's made a statement to the Audi of Scott McFall. He said, hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here. We're going to take another look at it. Bird's eye view, of course. Pulls out late. Bam! Up the inside. Scott McFall says, all right, I'm coming back up. It was the most marginal of gaps, but he managed to make it work. But I think for Lewis Archer, that was more a statement than it was an actual move.
Absolutely brilliant, isn't it? It's a reminder, hey, I'm here. I'm knocking on heaven's door, perhaps, as the Guns N' Roses song would say. It's Battle of the England versus Scotland, of course. Friendly foes, of course, friendly neighbours, and not so much on the track. Mortal enemies with 3 laps to go.
The Scots and the Brits, we don't get along too well. I mean, it's the Scots and the English, I should say. We're all Brits.
And by the way, too, congratulations for winning the World T20 tournament, cricket tournament in Australia.
Oh.
Of course, it was hosted.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, very patriotic, aren't you?
Honestly, I am. Just not with sports. I have my pinky out when I drink my tea. God save the king, blaring through my speakers.
So you got the king one right, of course.
Yeah. I had to think about that one. It was tempting to say God save the queen, but no, we got good old King Charles III, I think. I honestly don't know. I'm very patriotic. I'm proud to be British, but I don't follow it very well. I've never really been interested in cricket.
You just won the World Cup cricket, World Cup soccer, by the way. No,
go on the lads.
No,
go on the lads.
Soon. Yeah.
Not the football.
3 lions on your chest, my friend. Here we go. And is there going to be 3 lions on Dominic's chest? Well, he needs 4 positions. He's gained 2 positions in this race, and he's still battling it out with Adam that got past him a little bit earlier in this race. And he wants to fight his way back into that crucial points-paying position in the championship, especially when there's a lot of lap cars and a lot of cars actually out of this race. Once again, you can see only 8 cars remaining. Chris Bryan is the one in the sole last place, but they say to finish first you have to finish.
Exactly. It's days like today that you have to finish well. I mean, it's easier said than done for a lot of drivers. You want to be the one capitalizing off days like these rather than being sort of the one being caught up in them. Like what George Russell said a couple of years ago at this very circuit, you're meant to be the ones capitalizing off situations like these, not the ones being involved in them or causing them. When half the grid is out of the race, not scoring many points or for any at all, if you're finishing, you have to make sure you get to the end and secure those points, like we're seeing with Olivier Boltonic, who's pace is justifiable for a race win, but second and third is not going to be a bad points haul relative to those around them, which again is exactly what you want. Though we have to focus our attention. Dominic Herbert versus Adam Delmont once again down the pit straight as we start lap 14 of 15, the penultimate lap here for the feature race of round 10 of the United Touring Championship here at Monza. What an interesting evening of racing it's been, but Dominic Herbert on the counter-attack.
Yeah, here we go. Obviously into the highest speed of Curva Grande, and this is where you've seen a lot of fantastic moments and also shocking moments for some of the drivers. Side by side through here, there's going to be a little bumping and grinding. That's what racing's all about. There's your Tokyo drifting as well too in Monza. And that's going to scrub a little bit of speed off there, unfortunately, for Dominic, and he's going to have to do that all over again with basically one lap to go. Penultimate lap we are. Go back to the leader here. Scotty looking pretty in control at the moment. What can Lewis do from P2 this far back now?
Well, he's about 1 second back, which is going to be a tough ask to close, and he's got to do all the hard work that he's just done over the course of this race all over again in the span of a lap, which is going to be very difficult. On that last lap, we can see there 46.8 for McFall and a 47.1 for Lewis Archer. It's going to be difficult. It's going to rely on a mistake from the Scotsman of Scott McFall just in front. But never say never. Don't count anything out. Lewis Archer now the gap under a second, barely. 0.97 of a second is the gap between the 23 and the 46. Interestingly enough, 23.46, you know, double one, you get the other, which take that as you will. I mean, first and second at the moment, I think it's just an interesting correlation. But starting now the final lap, Scott McFall will lead them round to start lap 15 of 15. White flag will be waved to signify that final lap. Is it going to be Scott McFall that takes the checkered flag? Is he going to make a crucial error that could allow Lewis Archer through? Only time will tell, but we've got 9 corners left to decide it.
You're hoping Barney's waving that white flag. Don't you mess with the Scots, my friend. He'll go William Wallace on you. Here we go. Final lap, as you'd mentioned. Looking at pretty much in domination control of this for the Audi. Scrubbing off a little bit of speed, not drifting like we've seen some of these Centaurians in Italy, but doing what he needs to do best and keeping Mr. Lewis Archer in his mirrors. You had to say a little lonely race there for the Belgium driver, but he's still there, right? He's definitely the biggest gainer. You'd mentioned earlier in that race, isn't it, how much he just he jumped from practically almost at the back of the field there and sliced his way through the rest of the field there, kind of incident-free and just sitting back at the moment there comfortably, chilling to perhaps some classical Belgium, music. I don't know what the drivers listen to. I don't know sure what Scotty's listening to at the moment in the car, but one thing, he'll be foaming at the mouth for some bubbly champagne. He'll be spraying that very soon because he only has a couple more corners to go to be our race victor.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sheer drum and bass, I'm sure, just to get him in that mood as he crossed the line. But yeah, he's held his head up high. He's pranced with prowess throughout this entire race. He's not been under much pressure at all. Lewis Archer tried. Lewis Archer failed. One more corner left to go for Scott McFall to tick off another victory from P2 on the grid. Didn't quite go his way in race 1, but he's made up for it here in race 2. Lap 15 of 15, he'll see the checkered flag first. And for Scott McFall, it's another victory. It's a step in his championship campaign versus Olivier Boltonic, Callum Regan, and Dan Mulder. Across the line comes the Scotsman to take victory here in Monza. Lewis Archer comes home in second place with Olivier Boltonic there in third place. A perfect night of racing for the Belgian. P3 in race 2, P2 in race 1, and the fastest lap here in race 2 as well, for good measure. Adam Delmont P4 with Dominic Herbert P5, Stuart Gibbons, Michael Lees, and Chris Byron round out those that did make it to the checkered flag. But, well, race 2, fairly similar to race 1 in the sense that we got a fair few of the grid DNFing, exactly half of them to be exact. And, well, it was an interesting turn of events to say the least.
Look at Scotty. He's got a big smile on his face under that helmet, doesn't he? Absolutely, for sure. After the disaster of the first race, he's come back and rebounded back brilliantly to dominate this race. He's gained a position, of course, from his starting slot in P2, but he's had to hold off Lewis Archer that applied that pressure for much of this race and handled the pressure certainly well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, we will take a word with a couple of our drivers as soon as we run through the final race results of the night. We already have Scott McFall in the rating room, so we'll and Olivier Boltonic as well. We'll grab them in as soon as we can, and then grab a quick word with them before we wrap up for tonight's action. But yeah, well, Biggles, that was something. Again, welcome to the series. I know it is only a stand-in for you. We'll have James back at Touchwood, hopefully, in a week's time when we go to... let's have a quick look, actually. Where are we going to? The Red Bull Ring in a week's time in the Styrian Mountains in Austria for rounds 11 and 12. But that's in a week's time. Right now, we've just rounded off the second race, round number 10, here in Monza. Scott McFall takes victory, 2 seconds clear of Lewis Archer. Olivier Boltonic, the Belgian, rounds off the podium there in P3. Adam Dullman, Dominic Herbert, your top 5 with Stuart Gibbons, P6. Michael Lees and Chris Byram, those that did actually make it to the checkered flag. JKGB P9, Sean Roberts just in behind. Dan Babic, the Croatian, having a big shunt into the barrier at the Roger. Liam Silkstone was the man that put him there. Mark Draper P13, Callum Reed Gartner, Alec McNally, and Jens Goosens, the final driver in 16th place. And well, now we have the time just to drag in Scott McFall, Olivier Boltonic, and we'll have a word with them as soon as we can. So if I can, have I got the permissions to? I do indeed. Scott McFall, race 2 victor. Well, it was an interesting night for you, to say the absolute least. Obviously, after the misfortune of race 1, you bounced back well for race 2.
Yeah, definitely. Race 1 decided to be a bit of a write-off, to be fair, with a rookie mistake at the start, but I'm glad I made up for it in race 2.
Yeah, it was a good bounce back. Just talk us through sort of what happened in race 1. How did it go so wrong?
To be fair, normally I've got it for the screen, but normally I've got a look left, look right sort of button to keep an eye where the cars are positioned beside me. I didn't know how exactly tight I was towards my teammate Ollie, so I was hoping slightly for him to lift a split second earlier to give me the run at it being on the inside. Obviously he still did lift for me, but I just made a mess of it, to be honest. And when the car over-rotated, I would have saved it if the track was another half-inch wider, I think, but with a touch of the grass with the back left wheel, there was no saving it after that point. And as soon as I had hit the barrier, I just put my foot in the throttle to get out of the way for the rest of the grid to get through.
Fair enough. That is a valiant thing to do, and yet you put the races of others over yourself. It was a very chaotic race 1, to be fair. You weren't the only one that was making small mistakes. Just overall, what were your thoughts of the track? I mean, you took victory in race 2, so it couldn't have been that bad, but good, bad, interesting? What do you make of it?
I think it was a good track for the touring cars. It could have been a lot more interesting than what it was, is what I would say. Without the incidents, obviously, where there are people coming off the track and not getting to finish the race in race 1, I was quite surprised to look behind and see that so many cars never made it, to be fair. I certainly hope it was nothing to do with my off-track incident. Yeah, I was quite shocked with it, but I thought it could have been a lot more interesting with the draft. The Hyundais were definitely a lot faster on the corners than what it felt with the Audi, but I reckon with the draft it could still have made things interesting.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. And just before we let you go, I mean, looking forward, we've got just under half the season left to go. You have been up there week in, week out. Are you still eyeing up that championship charge?
Yeah, if it's going to work out for us, we're going to keep pushing for it. We said for the start that we were really wanting to try and get the Constructors' Championship between me and Ollie after missing out on it last season. Ollie done well to get, obviously, the season wrapped up. I think, if I'm right, I finished on the podium with 3rd place. So the main aim was obviously towards Constructors, and I think it's so far so well. Just hopefully we can keep pushing that into the next few rounds.
For sure. And just before we let you go, is there anyone you want to say thank you to for giving a quick shout out on the stream? Just anyone you want to mention?
Just same as usual, but a good shout out to the team, Ollie, for all his hard work with the setup. So it was nice to have him back this week, and for the team sponsors that help keep pushing us forward.
Congratulations, Scotty. Well done, my friend. You got that position gained after the first race that, didn't quite pan out that it was, but points are points and a race win's a race win. Enjoy the bubbly champagne in front of the Tifosi here in Italia.
Thanks very much, guys, and thanks again for the great work behind the scenes on the commentary and the live stream.
No problem. So there was our race winner there, Mr. Scotty. Now we're going to bring in our second place winner here on also sharing the podium, and that will be dragging him right now, of course, the man himself, the boss man, Mr. Lewis Archer. Hello. Congratulations on your P2.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know it wasn't a massive grid tonight, and we've got a bit of a gap now between now and the next race, so we'll get on some recruitment and things. Last time we did the recruitment, we ended up with like 40 drivers. So, but you take the points when these weekends come. I, to be honest, didn't expect to get any medals of any kind throughout any part of this season. So to snatch a P2, yeah, I'll have that.
Now, first race, of course, not one that went your way. Multiple accidents and all that jazz that was occurring.
Yeah, I hate colliding with your own teammate. It's the worst thing, isn't it? Like, I actually said we communicated on the. Obviously, he'd made the initial mistake going wide on the first turn, and I didn't. So the closing distance was decent. And I said, I'm on the inside, and he was like, all right, and he gave me some room, but just the distance between his speed and my speed wasn't as much as I thought. And yeah, I thought I'd just be passed and clear by that turn, and I wasn't. And bloody hell, the carnage. I mean, I know I see Sean didn't really look too hard, but I saw Sean on behind us lose it. I know that was a couple of people, and then I think a couple of people lost it because of half the grid basically crazy.
Yeah, well, when you put on a fantastic racing league, and of course, well, when you take out turn 1 and turn 2 in Italy, just it all becomes Curva Grande, where a lot of those overtakes occurred, and of course, where a lot of those incidents had occurred. But overall, I think it was absolutely exciting. It was good to be here, stepping in, of course, from James. I had a lot of fun in Monza. Anything you would like to shout out there, Mr. Archer, before we move on to the third place chat?
Yeah. Just exactly what you guys said there. Thanks to James every week for smashing it, and obviously in the week that you couldn't be here, thank you guys for stepping in and smashing it. Also, you put on a great show. I look forward to watching it back. I always do. And thank you for the guys that did turn up tonight. If you're listening to this, and I can assure you there will be a lot more drivers next week.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Go celebrate your P2. Yeah, and then we'll go over to the Belgium driver now, if somebody wouldn't mind dragging him here. Olivier. Well, yeah, you're in everywhere, isn't it? Just missed out on that race win. And I'll leave that actually over to Zach to interview you at the moment.
So, Olivier, I mean, it was a pretty all right day for you, I suppose, for here at Monza. For a lot of people, they couldn't quite say the same, but second and third, you'll take that?
Hello guys, good evening. Yeah, I'm happy with second or third because I was also not sure to make it. I had a small surgery on Thursday, so I'm a little bit in pain, but I'm happy to manage P2 and P3.
Not too bad of a result at all, and of course we do wish you the quickest recovery. But it was so close on that last lap in race 1 with Callum Reid-Garton. You were it was taken away from you, quite harshly on that last lap. He managed to find a way through. Were you gonna fight that one too much? Were you too bothered about fighting for that race win? Did you just want the points for the championship?
Well, the thing I was thinking, like, he was pushing me, and I know he was going to try the last lap. I knew that, and I didn't want to fight it too hard. But yeah, I wanted to win, but I didn't want to risk it, to be honest, because I missed last weekend. So I needed the points, to be honest. So he won, he did a great job, and I was happy with P2, to be honest.
Yeah, better safe than sorry in that sense, especially when you're fighting for a championship. You have been incredibly consistent, and well, just talk us through Monza. I mean, what did you think of the circuit? We've had a variety of opinions. I think it's been very interesting. Did you say it was a good track, a bad track, an interesting track to have on the calendar?
Well, it's a track that, to be honest, anybody can win. If you have decent pace and you get in draft, you can easily be 1 second to 1.5 seconds faster a lap. So yeah, it's a bit double, I don't know, because a lot of carnage happened. Like race 1, we only finished with 3 cars. I don't know how many cars now finished in race 2, so it's just difficult with the low wing and the smallest touch you start to slide big time, and it's a difficult track.
Yeah, it might not seem it on paper, but it did seem very difficult to say. Well, Monza aside, looking forward for the rest of the season. Are you looking forward to it? Do you feel confident? Of course, we're at the Red Bull Ring next time out for rounds 11 and 12. What do you think? I mean, it's fairly similar in style to Monza, straight lines, heavy braking zones. You feeling confident around your pace?
I don't really know, because I think the next race I will miss out because I'm out of country, so yeah, I will miss the next one, I think. Yeah, Phillip Island I will miss.
Ooh, down under. You're going to enjoy that one,
Yes.
mate. Phillip Island.
Down under, I will miss. So we will see how Austria goes. Normally, I'm available at Austria. Yes, I would be.
Yeah, well, we wish you the best of luck. We'll say goodbye to you now. We wish you the best of recoveries on your operation, and of course, best luck for the rest of the championship. Just before we let you go, is there anyone you want to say a quick thank you to, quick mention to on the stream?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for the good stream again. I want to thank my teammate Scott for the work he puts in for the whole team, and I also want to thank Lewis and Chris for the league. They're doing a good job. They're trying to do the best they can, and they're doing a really good job. So have a good evening.
Good evening to you. Enjoy the champagne there and get well soon, my friend. As you said, you're recovering there from surgery. And even driving in pain cannot stop the Belgium driver, who was probably, I have to say, almost one of the drivers of the day, getting 12 positions there, finishing third step on the podium, and once again driving in pain. It goes to show you don't mess with the Belgian drivers. They are super quick. Nothing can hold you down, my friend, and looking forward to see you racing for the next rounds of the United Touring Car Championship. Over to you. It's been, well, it's it. That's it. We're going to have to wrap it up, of course, at some point. James will be back next week. Zach, it's been a pleasure sharing the casting box with you, with your pineapple on your pizza or not. I think you do like your pineapple on your pizza, don't you?
No,
you don't.
I mean, to be fair, I've never tried it,
wow.
but I don't really want to. I'm more of a sort of a barbecue chicken type of guy, you know, pepperoni, that sort of thing.
Fair enough.
That's my sort of thing. I mean, I've never actually had like proper pizza. Always, you know, the kebab shop pizza. That's where it's at. But regardless, we've been here at the home of pizza, pasta, and Italian motorsport here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. It's been myself, Zach Sweeney, Dean Biggles, alongside me in the commentary booth. It was a chaotic, very, very interesting display of racing here for rounds 9 and 10 of the UTC. We wish you well. We'll see you in a week's time. Of course, we'll have James Parfitt and myself back in the commentary booth for rounds 11 and 12 at the Red Bull Ring. It should be a very, very interesting one indeed. We hope to see you back. But until then, guys, take care and bye-bye.